Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 21st Diversion Authority Finance Committee meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody. The first order of business is, Don, would you please call a roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
I am here.
Mr. Steen.
Here.
Ms. Thompson.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Redlinger.
Here.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mayor Carlson.
Here.
Mr. Reitz. Ms. Madriga.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, Don. Next order of business is to approve the minutes from May 24th, 2023. It's on page 3 of your packet.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second, but Commissioner, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of May 24th. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 3 is the approval of the agenda. Again, that was in your packet and has been distributed.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's been moved, seconded. Is there any discussion? Don, would you once again please call a roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grenberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you, Don. Next order of business is the approval of the bills. I'd like you all to help me welcome Susan Thompson to join us today, and she'll be presenting the bills as well as the financial report. Susan?
Okay, the bills are in front of you for the month of May. They total $2,940,000. I was told this is the regular roster of bills, so I'm not familiar with it, but I was told this is the typical bills that we pay. Any questions on any of these bills?
Mr. Chairman,
Mayor.
so are we paying all the legal bills of the small cities if they enter our MOU? Is that basically we have to pay for that by contract or previous engagement? Or?
I believe these bills are consistent with the negotiated MOUs with each of those entities. Mr. Shockley is here and can add additional detail if you want.
We'll call on Mr. John Shockley, attorney for the Diversion Authority. Mr. Shockley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Martin is correct in that the MOUs provided the land acquisition will be reimbursed for these communities, and they've retained counsel to help them with land acquisition, specifically relating to eminent domain.
And then if I could follow up then on a lot of the stuff that we've been doing, in which, let's say, a community wants to do not necessarily what we agreed to do, but they want extra or something else, do we pay those bills as well?
So betterments, no. The way the MOUs are laid out is that the authority has to agree to the alignment. Once the alignment is agreed to, the project is undertaken then. If they want to change the alignment, they need to come back to the authority and propose a change. And so there's checks and balances built into all the MOUs so that we're reviewing budget and scope. The one unknown always is land acquisition, as in any project. It's, trying to get somebody to agree to sell their property for a public improvement project, whether it's in a small town or a large project, is always challenging.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Any additional questions from anyone? Well, as presented by Mrs. Thompson, we have bills for $2,940,522.09. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Brandy. It's been moved and seconded to approve the bills as presented this afternoon. With that, is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grenberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
That is everyone.
Thank you, Don. The motion passes. Item number 5 is the financial report. Again, we call on Mrs. Thompson.
This is the net position on May 31st, 2023. Total assets of $185,273,274. Liabilities of $485,289, and final net position of $184,787,985.
Thank you. Committee, you have any questions of Mrs. Thompson with regard to the finance report? A motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner. Second by Mr. Steen. Been moved and seconded to approve the finance report as presented by Ms. Thompson, that we have a net position of $185,114,599. Is there any further discussion? Don, would you please call a roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson. Mr. Ridlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grinberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Is it?
Thank you, Don. Item number 6 on the agenda is the Executive Director's Financial Report. We're going to call on Mr. Martin Nicholson in the absence of Mr. Joel Paulson. Mr. Nicholson, it's on page 444 of your packet.
Thank you, Chairman Dardis and members of the committee. On the screen is the annual revenue status through May of this year. Current month is approximately $5.2 million against the approved budget of $233,799,000. Fiscal year to date is about $41 million. I'll just point out that as a reminder, sales tax revenues are delayed a couple of months. So while the sales tax revenue numbers might look low, it's because the reporting is delayed by 2 to 3 months before it hits the report. Next is the overall level 1 summary with current costs to date of $55,263,783 for fiscal year 2023 against the budget of $233,798,782. You can see the other numbers there. Nothing of significance stands out. We'll go to level 2, which again it has been in your packet. Nothing of too much to note. We'll make a couple of points on program management costs on the first page. You may see that the go up, Peggy, please. Nope, sorry. Under program management legal, there it is. You may notice that the fiscal year budget and the cost to date numbers are very close together. There is a cost for insurance premiums that is coded against that number, and as a result, that budget will need to be adjusted because the insurance premiums were not anticipated to hit this year. Decided those insurance policies were worth buying given the status of the project. So that's not an overrun. That is a matter of timing and when that occurred against that budget item. The only other item is an item on, mitigation associated infrastructure for OHB. There you go. You will note that looks significantly over budget. That is a miscoding that was coded against the Mitigation Association infrastructure budget. Was discovered too late for the packet, but it should go against the next line item against Work Package 38 upstream staging. So that was primarily a flowage easement against a parcel in Oxbow that should have been coded on a different spot. So that budget is not overrun as shown. The report totals match the level 1, and I'll stop there and stand for questions on that portion.
Any questions for Mr. Nicola?
Next slide is the budget summary, which shows cost to date of $584,806 against a roughly $1.4 million budget. And that is tracking on point for where we anticipate those costs are going to be for this year.
Questions on that? Okay. Does that conclude your report, Mr.
Yes,
Nicola?
that's the end of the report.
Any other discussion, questions? This is a non-actionable item and for information only. So thank you for that. Item number 7 is the DA Board approval contracting actions. Again, we'll call on Mr. Nicholson. You'll see that we have 2 items, A and B, on pages 53 and 56 of the packet.
Yes, Chairman Dardis and members of the committee. The first is Task Order 102, Amendment 5 for HMG. The changes some wording in the task order, removing some upstream mitigation concept for Christine and Wolverton, which will be done by others, and adding language for preliminary engineering for the upstream mitigation area ring levees and site improvements, and adding wetlands and forest mitigation monitoring scope and fee, which is a requirement of the AMP, the Asset Management and Monitoring Program, and that's for a total of $360,000. The second is a services agreement for 2023, which is for videography services, and this is for C3 Media. They are the company that has been providing the videos to date, the drone footages, and have been doing a very good job. And since they have an annual professional services contract, it needs to be renewed each year versus a master services agreement and a task order basis. And that is for $167,000. Those are your 2 task orders, or excuse me, contracting actions for today.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Mayor, would you clarify in your motion if you're moving to approve both items or just?
Both task orders, please.
Thank you. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been moved and seconded to approve the contracting actions, item A, which is to the Houston Moore Group, as well as C3 Media, as presented. One for $360,000, one for $167,000. Is there any further discussion? Any questions? Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
yes,
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grinberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Carlson.
yes,
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
That's everyone.
Thank you, Don. Motion passes. Item number 8 is MOUs and agreements. We have 2 items to consider, A and B. One is on page 61 in the packet, the other is on 107. We'll call on Mr. John Shockley, Legal Counsel for the Diversion Authority. Mr. Shockley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item we have is an MOU with Salem Cemetery, commonly known as the Wolverton Cemetery. It's just on the outskirts of the city proper of Wolverton. You may recall in the settlement agreement, we agreed to provide flood protection for the city of Wolverton. Also in the settlement agreement and in the Minnesota permit, we agreed to work with impacted cemeteries. This cemetery is essentially part of the community, and as set forth in the MOU, instead of having the cemetery board do the work, it'll be undertaken as part of the MOU with Buffalo Red Watershed District and Wolverton to build the levee around the city. So pretty straightforward. It addresses the potential impacts from the comprehensive project and project operations. This is also a requirement of the Minnesota permit relating to Minnesota cemeteries to have an agreement in place with them. So happy to answer any questions. It's pretty straightforward. All the work would be undertaken as part of the Wolverton flood control project.
Was this included in the project budget overall budget? Very good. The answer was yes. All right, thank you. Please continue.
The second item I have is what I consider is a big success story. We have before the board the BNSF construction and maintenance agreement for the construction of the shoe flies and bridges that go across the diversion channel. You'll recall there's a number of railroad crossings that are both on the north-south up by Argusville, referred to as the Hillsborough line, and then a number of BNSF lines that cross on the western side of the city of West Fargo, the Prosper line, and then they have a KO line with multiple tracks. This agreement outlines the responsibilities of BNSF and the Metro Flood Diversion Authority. This is a critical path item so that we can enable the contractor to stay on schedule for the construction. Essentially, BNSF will be constructing the bridges, and as part of any BNSF agreement, they require you to pre-fund some of their long-term maintenance and operations because you're now adding a bridge into their rail system. So it's about $3 million per bridge. That was what the estimate that was given to us early on in 2017, and so that's very favorable that the prices essentially remain fixed. Happy to answer any questions, but this is an important agreement and a success to get it to this point.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Shockley? This is an actionable item.
I'll move to approve both.
Thank you, Commissioner Pipcorn. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Carlson. It's been moved and seconded to approve the MOUs and agreements as presented by Mr. Shockley. Item A is the Salem Cemetery / Wolverton Cemetery and a BNSF construction and maintenance agreement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Don, would you please call the roll? Again, we're
Fairness.
voting on both items. Excuse me.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Steen,
Yes.
Ms. Thompson,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
yes,
Mr. Redlinger,
Yes.
Mr. Granberg,
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Aye.
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
And that is everyone.
Thank you. Motion passes. Does any member of the Finance Committee have any other business they'd like to bring forward at this time? Any of our staff, anybody? No? Our next meeting will be July 26th. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.